All right, Helaine, well, we just got it opened up here for today's edition of Trade of the Day Live. Really excited to be here for today's episode. Obviously, Helaine, another pretty volatile day for markets.
Oh yeah.
Definitely had a bit of a pressure off move yesterday. It was definitely nice. Saw some things start to rally that had not been working, but the Bears have kind of taken back over control at least for today. And renewed fears over rising energy costs, interest rates up, VIX up, things like that. So it's definitely kind of got the market spooked today. But Helaine, welcome back in. Look like you're having some trouble with your camera there, but glad to have you back. I know big data breakdown. Thanks for the market. Obviously, have a big catalyst tomorrow too with the February jobs report. That's definitely we're going to touch here on interest rates here, but that's definitely going to be moving those tomorrow too. So a lot of things kind of on the horizon, a lot of things to be watching right now.
Yeah, a lot going on in the markets. Excited to be here with you and with everybody else. So let's go ahead and let's jump into it, Blaine.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and do it. I need to get some screen sharing going here. So let's go ahead.
I might need to enable that screen share.
Yeah, yeah, if you go ahead and enable the permission there and we can get that off and running.
Okay.
Thanks for your patience there, everybody.
Yeah, thank you guys.
And Leo, I see you in the chat saying hello. Yeah, Buenos dias back to you. Thank you for that, Leo. Yeah, appreciate you being here. Thanks so much for saying hey.
Blaine, I am trying my best and it looks like I'm having here. I'm gonna switch it over so that you're the host so that
Perfect.
there we go. That way you can do it. Sorry about that, guys.
All right, now we should be able to do it. So sorry for that, everybody. Thanks for your patience with getting that set up. But as we were saying, hopping into our first chart here, Helaine, we always like to, just kind of do a sector overview or market overview, kind of, talk about what's going on broadly across the markets. Obviously, another tough day of selling. Certainly, but nowhere near the lows that we experienced on Tuesday. Obviously, the last time we were together, we were, breaking down further from here, but, still seeing some selling pressure in the market, certainly. We've dropped back down now below 6,800 on the S&P. We are below the level we closed at on Tuesday, so I think that's notable. Obviously, intraday Tuesday, we dipped, much more substantially, but, still really struggling with trying to recapture that 50-day moving average, trade back up above that 6,900 level on the S&P, Helaine, and again, while we are still obviously trading above our 200-day moving average here, the long-term uptrend is still intact. There's starting to be some questions around it, certainly, because, for about 3 weeks now, we've been remaining below this 50-day moving average. We have not, been able to, really gain any type of momentum above it. And now we keep testing this level pretty high frequency now around 6,800. So that was our floor of support below this market at the S&P 500 index level, of course. So you can see now, in the past 4 trading days, we've gone down and tested that level on 3 of them, and we've broken through of it. We've broken below that level on 2 of those occasions now, trading below it now. So, if we were to close at this level, that would certainly be significant because it would be the first time we closed below it, dating all the way back to this date right here, looking back to mid-January. So, it definitely looks like we're starting to see some further trend degradation here, at least in the short term. If you just look at our middle counter channel here, that obviously, it's just the 20-day exponential moving average. That's all the middle channel is there. You're starting to clearly see that take, a move lower. I mean, if you just kind of, just drew the line right through the middle of all the price action here, really dating back to mid-January through the present, you mean that, there would be a slightly downward slope here. So, anything else that you're seeing here, just, that you want to really point out here, at the index level?
Yeah, looking at the index, I was not thrilled to see today's movement because yesterday, we saw a bounce off of those lows from earlier in the week, and that was, a positive sign. But what I'm seeing really specifically today is that it's trading lower off of the middle Keltner channel. And this is something that we touch on pretty frequently when a stock, ETF index, when it's in a bearish trend and a strong bearish trend, it goes and starts trading down below that middle Keltner channels. And often what we see is that it tries to trade up to the middle channel. It hits its head on the middle channel and then trades back down. And that's what we're seeing here today. So did not love seeing that on the index level today.
Yeah, that's a really great point, Helaine. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, because I mean, clearly it's just right in line kind of with what I was saying, but it's just another clear sign. that we, are really struggling to gain any traction moving to the upside, to really attract further buyers to the market, to power, the index, past that level. It's definitely, that is a clear another level of resistance above the market right now. And so, obviously, you see the rate at which the 200-day moving average is sloping up. We're starting to have the index drift lower, even though it's not a, really sharp, severe sell-off. We're still only several percentage points from the all-time highs. Still, to keep things in context here, obviously, but we are starting to, drift lower. At 200-day moving average is, very clearly inflecting higher. I think, Helaine, that's really just setting up, for a definitive test. I think there's almost no way we're likely going to avoid a test of that 200-day moving average here, in the weeks and probably month ahead. So, certainly something we're going to be watching for, really want to see this index hold up above the 200-day moving average. Again, it's been a long time since we've even been kind of in the same zip code of the 200-day moving average. So something definitely notable there. But, Helaine, just moving on here, it is, just another day in the markets where it's, almost kind of a no place to hide. It's not so much so as Tuesday, obviously, really all the sectors almost broadly across, I think it was all 11 of the S&P sectors we're actually down on Tuesday, but you can see today, there are a couple places that are actually up. You can see that energy obviously is outperforming. There's, certainly, not to state the obvious, but there's some obvious reasons for why energy is outperforming. Interestingly enough, Helaine, you can see, I know the XLK Tech sector ETF is actually about flat to moderately down. But you see the sector broadly here, the infotech sector is actually in the green today. I found that to be pretty interesting. That
Pretty interesting too, and I know it's coming off of the earnings report yesterday, right?
well, I think that's a big catalyst. So I didn't want to mention that, but yeah, I just I think with kind of how investors are reacting to the current events that are really kind of driving the bus for the markets. The typical safety trades that you would expect to rally, when you see a big geopolitical shock like this, you would think, okay, gold, precious metals are going to do really well. You're going to see, a flight to safety into treasury yields. You're going to see a flight to safety into defensive stocks. Sorry, not treasury yields, but just buying bonds. You're going to see yields fall because people are buying them. So sorry, I just want to correct that. But the typical safe haven trades, we really haven't seen that play out this time, and the large reason for that is because of what is happening in the energy markets. Obviously, that kind of disrupts that whole narrative. So you're having energy prices spike. Obviously, that's leading to, what could possibly happen down the pike coming with inflation. And so, there's some flock to the energy stocks, which were already one of the stronger performers on the year, Helaine. But interestingly enough, one of the other places that traders have identified as a pocket of, kind of a defensive play were all the information tech stocks. You've seen software bounce back in recent days, obviously off of way oversold levels, but also the Mag 7 stocks. You're seeing some of those actually up and up, decently in the green today on a pretty negative tape. So just you thought that was pretty interesting to see that, obviously energy, it's understandable why that's up, but I thought it was notable to see that tech was actually up too.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, especially information technology, as you had said. And we can jump into this chart later, but I think it's worth looking at the sector IGV and seeing what's going on there. So maybe later on,
Sure.
we can look at that, because I saw that yesterday and I was actually shocked. I actually was shocked seeing it.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, just to also speak to the other point, I mean, take a look at the worst sectors on the day. Like I was saying, typically you would, think to see, investors flocking to the defensive trade, Helaine. I mean, take a look at the worst sectors of the day. You see healthcare down there on the very bottom, almost down more than 2.5%. Staples are down more than 2%. Utes, the utilities, they're down almost 1.5% today. So, obviously, they're not really catching a bid, from a defensive play. So, from equity side, definitely far and few between, the places to hide out, a tape like today. But again, that's all because of what's coming up in the next chart here. So given the, potential for an energy shock, the obviously rising price of oil, we've seen oil up, obviously Brent crude's up, WTI crude's up, VIX is up substantially, and treasury yields are up all because of this. So, as we mentioned, investors are clearly not quite flocking to treasury bonds, and so much so that it's actually going to, cause the yields to fall. You're still, seeing those prices of bonds come down because clearly the yields are rising here. This is a chart of the 10-year U.S. Treasury yield, Helaine, and just think about it. Here we are sitting on Thursday. Last Friday we closed near the session lows, and it was actually had just dropped below 4% on the 10-year U.S. Treasury. See, it actually closed on just a touch above 3.95. So that's where we were just this past Friday before the events of the weekend. Look at the move it's had in just 4 days. I mean, this is just a crazy, like meme stock level move for for a treasury yield. I mean, it went from 3.95 basically almost all the way up to 4.15 now. I mean, that is just a crazy, crazy move.
Yeah, no, that is insane, Blake.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, just think about like the last time, we traded down to the 3.95 level in October of last year. And, it took us, a while to get back up to the level we are now. It was like several weeks to a month to get to that level. That
Mhm.
move has happened in 4 days. So obviously that's a huge spike in treasury yields.
Absolutely.
That's certainly what's, put some of the more defensive sectors on the retreat because obviously those higher treasury yields are starting to look more attractive, competition for investing dollars, things like that. So, that just leads me into my next chart here too, Helene, before we get into our trade ideas for today. But it's just looking at the chart of the RSP right here. This is, of course, the equally weighted S&P 500 ETF. And so, obviously this had been the trade year to date. It was the equal weighted trade. The equal weighted S&P was clearly outperforming the broader markets. Not that the headline index is really doing great today either, but you can see that this is down, about 1.5% on the day just today. And clearly looks like that uptrend is starting to at least take a breather here. As so many of the other sectors that had really been driving that strong performance lane are starting to really pull back and kind of just pump the brakes a little bit here today.
Yeah, no, that's a good chart to show, and it's just been interesting to see today's action, as you had said, where those top performing sectors have just really been hit hard. But also, it's clear to me that we're seeing some signs of rotation, right? Like the money's not just going away; it's going to different places. And after I saw the chart of IGV, I have to say, I'm like, oh, I should be trading IGV right now.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely an interesting chart because certainly experienced the big, jump back in recent days and even some of the crypto stocks too. So we can kind of cover all that here in a bit. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight this because as you said, there is some rotation obviously still going on in the markets,
Mhm.
rotating to less places than where it was before. It's obviously, fleeing to some of the places we mentioned earlier. But yeah, I just thought that this was notable, seeing RSP, trading back down to, about, what's close to about a month low, the lowest level it's been in about a month. So certainly something to watch there to see if, the equal weight trade can regain some steam or if this is, a little bit of a pullback still here in the making. So just wanted to touch on that. But Helaine, anything else you want to add before we hop into just the trade ideas that we had spotted for today?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, let me go ahead. And so I'll go ahead and hop into mine. I know we have yours coming up next. But my trade idea for today was actually for this one right here. So don't have a specific option set up here today, but kind of will just walk you through how I'd look to trade this one. But it's for WFC. It's for Wells Fargo. So obviously pretty well-known bank stock. There's probably one somewhere, maybe in your neighborhood or right down the street. Pretty well-known bank here. And so obviously, this had been a place in the market that had been a very strong performer for much of last year. It was really strong outperformance from financials and banks. Typically not something that we see extend for a really long period of time. We know that banks kind of have their, moment in the limelight and then, kind of give some of that back. And we're seeing that now. So obviously this stock topped out. It peaked out earlier this year in January, tried to, rally back to those levels later on in that month in early February too, and failed, around about 95. And then it's, continued in making the series of lower lows and lower highs. Obviously, we had a new bearish trend, confirm itself amid this, reversal in the share price. So we can see the stocks, been pushing to multi-month lower lows and lower highs here. You can see our 21-day EMA right here just crossed below, had that negative convergence below the 63-day EMA right there. So that's kicking off that profit surge sell signal. Our profit surge dashboard actually spotted this one here today with an official sell signal. And so you can see that, obviously the stock's still making that series of lower lows and lower highs. The trend line is in place to the downside. Clearly looks like the bears are in control here. And it's not currently too oversold either. So you can see that it's still trading above that lower Keltner channel there. So offering a really attractive entry point for a trade to the downside, considering, some type of a bearish setup here. And, one other thing too, just want to confirm, this is just really looking at the short-term momentum showing how negative it is for this stock. So this is just a MACD chart here, Helaine. You can see that
Okay.
the MACD, it crossed below the zero line as it was coming off of these highs from early February here. And it's continued this MACD sell signal ever since. Really negative momentum here, still continuing to the downside. So some, pretty significant weakness here. And a lot of the major bank stocks actually look pretty similar. So this was just the one I was highlighting for today. And so the way I'd actually look to play this one, Helaine, typically, as we know with the banks here broadly, but certainly the kind of larger mega caps style banks, they typically don't carry a ton of option premium, and so kind of hard to find a spread type of trade for these generally. Whether
Sure.
it's a put option debit spread or trying to sell a call credit spread or something like that. Generally, probably not going to have the best risk to reward on those types of setups. So I'd probably just look to play this one, by buying an in the money put option. So, the stock's currently trading about 81.50. I would probably look somewhere around 90, 91, 92, somewhere in that range probably. Probably try and buy a put option right around in that range and, see if this thing continues to the downside.
Awesome, Blane. I love the pick. As you said, clearly the bears are in control, and it just cascading lower in a nice orderly trend down. So really, really love that pick there. Absolutely think that that one's clearly, as you said, on a confirmed downtrend. Not only that, it's also on that profit surge sell signal too, which is cool.
Yep, without a doubt. And I know, Helaine, I know you also have a pretty interesting trade for today too.
I do, and it's funny because my trade is also bearish. Not only that, it's also from the profit surge sell signals.
Nice.
Um, and so my trade is for stock symbol AN, which is AutoNation. And as you can see, there's quite a bit of noise here on this chart. It's been kind of trading on and off between buy and sell signals over the last couple of months, but this recent price action has been quite bearish. And specifically, I'm looking at key levels that it's taken out. We can see looking back on the chart that it had sorry, I'm kind of zooming in and out on the recording on my end to get a better feel for the chart. We can see that back in August and November, it found support right around, I want to say like 187. And I feel very bearish on this setup because it took out that support level 2 trading days ago, right? We can see that the low from 2 trading days ago, which was Tuesday, had it dipping below 185. Now, that's the first time that it dipped below 185 since June of last year. So after a stock takes out support, it tends to trade lower from there. Not only that, you can see it's on a confirmed sell signal with the 21-day EMA trading below that 63-day EMA. And also, we can see that it is trading very consistently below that middle Keltner channels, really just almost on a straight shot down, but something that confirms that really short-term bearish trend again is going to be the price action from the last week of trading. We can see that the stock went down to the lower Keltner channels, became oversold, traded back up towards the middle, and then failed to trade higher from there in today's movement. And now it's at the lows of the day. I'm very bearish on AutoNation. Technically speaking, that setup is looking like it is set to trade lower. Additionally, this is the type of company and stock that is going to struggle when there's economic weakness, right? So there's some uncertainty, going on, and this is the type of stock, an auto retail stock that, might not perform as well if there's economic uncertainty. So all of that to say, That's my trade of the day, my bearish trade of the day. And I would probably be looking to do a put option spread on this one, just given the price of the stock. It's currently trading at 191. So I'd probably look to go about a month out, with April 17th or so. And then ideally I would be selling the strike that's around 210, 215 for my spread. And I'd probably look at doing a put option spread that way.
Nice, Helaine. Yeah, really like the trade setup. Obviously, very much like my play on the banks there with Wells Fargo, kind of for different reasons, but definitely a bit of an interest rate story driving this one here too. So, with rates obviously increasing, that's not great really for a used car selling company like AutoNation. It's obviously going to probably put a bit of a damper on their sales. And for the bank stock play, obviously with rates rising, typically higher rates are going to end up being good for banks only if the yield curve is steepening. So kind of getting in the weeds there, but seeing the exact opposite of that here recently, that's actually been declining. So really not that great of a story for the banks either with rising rates, at least the way they have been rising. So yeah, very interesting play there, Helaine. It's definitely traded down to that. There's kind of two tests to that support level that you mentioned earlier.
Mhm.
Generally seeing it trade down to a support level about a third time. I would definitely start to get a little nervous to see it. I think it's probably going to, I would think it's likely going to break through that. You see it go down and keep testing that support level over and over and over again. Eventually it's probably going to end up breaking through it. So, great looking trade set up there. But Helaine, anything else you wanted to add here before we go ahead and get into what I think is probably everybody else their favorite part of the show?
Yeah, I just wanted to note, guys, that these are our top two trade picks of the day. We gave you ideas about how we would roughly trade these, but for exact trade ideas, exact option trades, as well as trade management guidelines, guys, we're going to be offering that in our newsletter. It is what, Blane? Can you expand more on? It's
Yeah,
one.
absolutely. Yeah. So I just posted a link in the chat about it, but it's one of our top flagship newsletter products we offer here. It's something we put out, on the weekly basis, comes out on the weekends, and it actually is going to include four of our top trade setups. So it's going to be, four hand-selected trade ideas each and every week from our team, and it's going to include the full trade setup. Some management ideas about how we look to manage it once the trade's on, full trade details and everything like that. So if you want to check it out, it's in there in the chat right now. It's being offered for just a trial period of $1 for the first month if you don't have it already. Really great deal to go ahead and check that one out, but it's there and highly encourage you to give it a look.
Wonderful. And yeah, if you guys are on a different platform, not live with us, it's going to be down in the description as well, or the comments, a link to check that out.
Yep, absolutely. And so I know we're going to go ahead and also go on TikTok here too to bring in the TikTok crowd to live stream this part of the show too. So Helaine, you want to go ahead and get that fired up, and then we can
Absolutely.
Perfect. Awesome. And while we're waiting, everybody, in the Zoom room on YouTube, if you have a stock ticker, ETF ticker, go ahead and start placing those in the chat. If you want us to pull up the chart, look at it, give you some technical analysis of, kind of what we're seeing in the charts, maybe how we'd look to trade it, things like that, how we just are viewing it through our lens of technical analysis. Go ahead and post those in the chat. And we'll go ahead and start analyzing those here in just a minute. But Helaine, do you have the TikTok up and running yet?
Yeah. We're up. We're running on TikTok, Blane.
Perfect. Awesome. I'm going ahead and joining in now. And so once we get that going, we can kick off this part of the show. I already see some tickers coming in. Dell, thank you for that. Folks, keep those tickers coming in. Really would love to hear a lot of your ideas and start pulling these up. Let's see here. Perfect. Thanks for your patience, everybody. And we should be good here in just a moment. Awesome. Helaine, I think we're up and running here.
We're all set, Blane.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, so folks, go ahead and start putting in your stock ticker ideas. We're going to start analyzing some of these. Of course, please remember this is for educational purposes only, not to be interpreted as official investment advice. So please keep that in mind. Obviously, too, for some of the tickers we analyze, there's possibility Helaine or myself may maintain positions in those tickers. So with that said, go ahead, start posting your favorite tickers in the chat, both on Zoom, TikTok, YouTube, wherever you're tuning in from. Love to hear your thoughts on different stock tickers. We also have some interesting ones, too, we want to pull up. So while we're waiting for those to come in, but go ahead and put those on there. The first one up, though, Helaine, I know Dell was the first one in.
Let's
He
see.
wanted us to take a look at CASY. So let's
Yes.
go ahead and take a look at that one. So this is Casey's General Store. I have not been to one of these. I've heard that I'm missing out. I heard the pizza's fantastic. Um, but looking at the chart here, wow, this is a pretty constructive looking chart, given the backdrop of the market.
It absolutely is. I'm impressed with this. And it's also a very expensive stock, I will say.
Yeah, definitely very high priced. Expensive from just the share price perspective, not making
Yeah.
a call on the valuation there. But yeah, just from the share price, yeah, definitely. It's about $670 per share. So a higher price stock for sure. Really like the trend here. It's very constructive, very orderly. It's in a very clear, confirmed uptrend, but certainly has not gone parabolic. I like that it traded up to some new all-time highs here in just the past couple trading days, finished near the highs of the session. Just yesterday, pretty close to the highs of the session today, pulling up off that middle Keltner channel. So, even though it's, down on the tape today, I think it's a really great looking setup here. So I really, really like the setup. Um,
Or Blane, I really, really like, as you said, to see that strength right now, considering everything else that is going on within the market. I mean, that is an awesome setup. I like the bullish hammer that I'm seeing today too.
yep.
Definitely a positive sign there.
Without a doubt. Absolutely. And so, folks, if you just joined into the TikTok room, I know our crowd's kind of trickling in there too. Go ahead and comment a ticker if you want us to take a look on the charts that we're analyzing here. So we'd love to hear from you. But I see up next we have Meta coming in from the Zoom chat. This is actually one of the tickers. You can see this one, not so much showing the strength here that some of the other, infotech names were earlier. Looking at the chart here, kind of a mixed picture, Helaine. Obviously, it's made its way well off of those lows, after it kind of collapsed in November of last year. But ever since then, it's really struggled to kind of really get anything constructive together. Obviously, we've known that the Mag 7 contingent has been under pressure here in the past couple months. And so, this one's still really seemingly locked in a bit of a consolidation. It's certainly off the lows too from midway through February. So, this one's tried to get, some momentum rolling here on a couple different occasions. Still not super constructive on this one yet. It's still kind of locked in that range bound trading and, really not much of a trend out one way or the other right now. But what are you thinking, Helaine?
Yeah, I really had been hopeful that Meta was resuming a bullish trend. And I mean, really, from the lows of November, it is up, but this is like such an odd, wide range that Meta has been in. And I mean, I'm seeing it just
Yeah.
a ton of resistance right around that 680 level, right? It broke above it, it did, but it went right back down. And it just seems to really be having trouble with that. But I will say, it's broken above it once. It's tested it a couple times. I would think that if it continues to test it, it's going to break above it. As you say, even just like on the downside, it's just the reverse, right? If you test it a number of times, eventually you're going to break through.
Yep, without a doubt. So yeah, definitely, trying to consolidate, trying to break out of that range one way or the other. So definitely still watching that one. But as we mentioned earlier in the call, Helene, there are some, one of the defensive places in the market that people have actually been fleeing to, at least just today, and here in the past couple of days, is some of those mega cap tech names. So let's pull up AVGO because I know that was an interesting one. Definitely some encouraging thoughts to offer here. Obviously, this company reported earnings yesterday after the market closed. And,
Mm-hmm.
obviously it's up on the day, which is really encouraging because, Helene, for so long, through this earnings season, it's not that the earnings that were reported were actually bad. It's been the market's reactions to the actual reports. And so,
Sure.
we've gotten, a number of really good reports this earnings season and, stocks, even if, it was a beat and raise type of quarter, they were just getting clobbered following that. This one, they had a great double beat and raise that they reported last night. And the stock actually got rewarded. So, I thought that was pretty notable. Seeing a positive price reaction from the market following a good report. You like to see good financial results get rewarded with positive price action. You saw that here with Broadcom today. So I thought that was really notable.
Yeah, it's definitely notable, but I will say the interesting thing about Broadcom is that, I mean, even with today's report, it's still on this confirmed bearish trend.
Oh,
Uh,
for sure. Yeah, the trend is still, pointing down, down and to the right, for the past couple months, until proven otherwise. But I just wanted to note, today's positive price action. I thought it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And while we have charts up, I was gonna look at IGV, Blaine.
Yeah, yeah, great call. Yeah.
IGV. So I mean, this is what caught my eye this week, right? IGV, and as you can see, this ETF went from 118, right back, that's around the high back in September, all the way down to, let's call it 76. And you can see that it is breaking trend right now. It is
Yep.
at least, you know, definitely trying to break trend. And the volume, Blaine, is notable too, because you see the volume overlay on yours in the
Oh, and
background.
the volume's been insane. This thing, for the past year was averaging probably around, I don't know, call it, 7, 8 million shares traded per day. The
Hmm.
the last month and a half has been, 40 million shares per day. So the volume's just been insane
Yeah,
in this stock, and a lot of, significantly down days too. So obviously, a lot of washout behavior that you're seeing, some classical signs of washout, and then, kind of V-shaped recovery here. Not saying it's going to go right back to the highs, but, definitely looks like we could have put a bottom in here for software for sure.
definitely. And it's important to note that it's not on a confirmed buy signal yet for us. That's something that would be watching closely to see if and when that occurs. But it's telling me that I'm seeing early signs of a breakout here. I like what I'm seeing, and
Yep.
I'm going to be watching this very closely.
Yep, without a doubt. Yep. So, just a nice encouraging sign there. Again, in a rough tape, seeing something that was, it's just been so beat up here in recent weeks, in a tape that's down about what, we're down, let's see, we're currently down about 1.3% and seeing this, industry ETF here, software ETF about 1.5%. So really encouraging stuff there. I see we just got another ticker in through TikTok here. So thanks, Roro, for putting that in there. But it's a ASTS, Helaine. Let's go ahead and pull this one up.
Let's do it. ASTS,
So I
which is
know this is a pretty speculative stock here for sure.
base.
It's one of the it's a space stock. I believe that this one might be a lesser profitable competitor to SpaceX. I think they might be in the business of launching satellites. I think that's accurate, but just looking at the chart here, Helene, kind of a mixed picture. If you are just looking at the past 6 months, obviously the stock has some upside momentum. It's making a longer term series of higher highs and higher lows.
Mhm.
But with that said, it's pretty volatile. It trades in a really wide range, almost on a daily basis. And here in just the past month, obviously it's pretty well off of its highs. This thing topped out at the end of January, around 122, 125. Now we're
Mhm.
down to about 92.5. So obviously a pretty substantial move to the downside there. It does look like it's trying to get a little bit more constructive here in the last couple days, but again, just a very volatile stock. Have to understand that. Not a, it's kind of a tough trend to trade here, Helene, because this one, it's not really that orderly. It's very volatile. There's not really a definitive trend one way or the other here in the short term. So, this is one I probably would, probably just pass on because, for our style of trading, trying to take a position, trade a trend, swing trade, things like that. Kind of hard to do that with a chart like this.
Yeah, and I will say it's not that it couldn't turn more constructive. It might be one that I would put on my buy list and just kind of watch for more constructive, bullish action. That's
Right.
what I like to see when we're trading. But for right now, I'd probably be holding off.
Yep. Yep. Totally agree. Yeah, it's just it's got too much of mess on the chart for trying to trade this one from a shorter term perspective here. But appreciate you throwing the ticker in there. It's definitely an interesting one. I haven't seen that chart for some time. But keep the tickers coming in, guys. Keep commenting those both in TikTok. Also, go ahead and post them in the Zoom chat as well too. If there's any tickers that you want us to take a look at, we'll go ahead and pull those charts up. We'll analyze them using our technical analysis, how we typically look to trade in the markets using our technical analysis. So keep those tickers coming. Love to see your thoughts. Love to hear your comments. So keep
Yeah.
posting those in here. But Helene, another chart that I'll pull up here in the meantime, real quick, is going back to kind of seeing what was working today. Some of the defense, again being really interesting that it's tech. We already covered. The IGV and Broadcom earlier, but one I believe it was Amazon was actually up today.
Amazon, interesting.
Yeah, so you see Amazon actually up. You see Microsoft actually up today. If I had to imagine Oracle,
Oh my,
they might be up. Yeah, Oracle. Think about that. Oracle, this stock has just been left for dead.
oh,
Oracle's actually up today. I mean, so take a
okay.
look at these. Microsoft, again, like I said, Microsoft's up another percent today. They've been up, pretty well off those lows from early last week. And so, clearly you can see that at least today, you're still seeing this pocket of the market continue to catch a bid. So pretty interesting stuff there on the charts. Just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, Blaine, let's go back to Amazon. Okay. Okay, this is really, really interesting because we had been bullish on Amazon. It had been volatile, but construct not, it had been volatile, but bullish leading into that earnings, right? And then we saw the drop off. That was a tough one. That was a tough one for us. Did not love that. But it clearly looks like Amazon has put in a bottom, right? That low was around 195 and now it is trading off that. We're seeing some higher highs and higher lows. We saw a break above that middle counter channel. That's a bullish confirmation. I like what I'm seeing. It's early in this movement because we don't yet have a confirmed buy signal, but I'm going to keep my eye on this one, Blaine.
Yeah, it's definitely very interesting, kind of the Mag 7 group. It's definitely has still remained kind of from a long-term perspective, still one of my favorites.
Mhm.
Obviously, the stock had a pretty big blow up following their earnings report. You can see that with the several gap downs there dating back to early February. So, they reported, overall pretty good numbers, but it was the market getting spooked by their CapEx number that I think, I trust what they're doing. I think it's probably going to end up being a good thing, but just focus on the charts. You can see clearly had the huge blow up there, big gap down. Stock traded down to about 200, just below $200 per share, but we didn't get any confirmation down below that. Didn't keep trending
Mhm.
down lower, did not continue to break lower, kind of drew a line in the sand there, held that line. Now it's starting to, pop back higher. It's up above the middle channel. It's jumped up above our 21-day EMA. Again, we still don't have that trend line buy signal confirmed yet, but it's definitely starting to look constructive. One thing too, I'll add, Helaine, is that this has gotten back into that gap, and we know that on charts with technical analysis, typically, after stock has a gap up or gap down, and the price action, brings it back into that gap, it's a bit of a void, and oftentimes those gaps end up getting filled. So certainly something to be watching here.
Yeah, and I will say just one other thing important to note. You have MACD on your chart right now, and you can see that it's currently on an MACD buy signal
Yep.
uh, there. And then additionally, sorry, I'm trying to get my MACD up as well. Yeah, so that I can show everyone the MACD buy signal we're seeing there. But then also using our momentum radar, which is a calculation of inertia, we can see that the inertia is moving in the right direction. Momentum's moving in the right direction for Amazon. We can see that by these red bars getting smaller. Not green yet, but getting smaller, that's for sure.
Right. Yeah. If it keeps this price action, it's definitely going to turn green in pretty short order. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, very interesting move there from Amazon. Certainly something that was very notable today in today's tape that I wanted to point out. I see we had another ticker come in. From let's see, who is that from? That's VFLX, I think, on CrowdStrike CRWD. You want to go ahead and pull that one up, Elaine?
Yeah.
It's a very similar move here today too. This is one, got
Ooh.
caught up in the software sell-off, the SaaS apocalypse, AI is eating the world, eating software. That whole thing that's been happening over the past couple months.
Yeah.
I personally, I never really understood the case for the cybersecurity names getting sold off in this basket. I think it's just, that they just happen to be lumped in the software portion of the tech sector. And, I think it just was just broad in mass selling just indiscriminately that kind of hurt these. But obviously this stock has bounced back very sharply. This thing closed, Helaine, last week, early last week, or possibly the Friday before last week. But anyways, you can see at the low, it closed down around $350 per share. Now in today's trading, at the high, we jumped all the way back up to 430. I mean,
Mhm.
that is just a huge, huge move in about 2 weeks' time. Really strong recovery here. I think that we may have, I personally think we might have seen the bottom here for sure in CrowdStrike. I really never understood the sell off in this one to begin with. I think if anything, AI is going to be a huge benefit to these guys' businesses because they're in cybersecurity. They're one of the premier brands in it. But of course, sticking to the technicals here, obviously, the stock still is in a longer term downtrend. It looks like it's trying to actually break out to a new shorter term higher high. So if we are able to, crack above that 430 level lane, that would be a short term higher high, getting above those, mid February highs you can see there. So that would be important, clearing that resistance level. But, it still has a lot to prove regarding the trend, but it's starting to, look like it wants to get constructive.
Totally. Yeah, I want to be bullish on CrowdStrike. And I am right now, but I have to, as you said, see further confirmation, right?
Yep.
That's what we're waiting for right now, is that further confirmation. But I love CrowdStrike. It's one that we've traded many times, and it's one of those stocks that it feels like once it gets constructive, we always are just like, oh, CrowdStrike is trending, it's time to trade CrowdStrike, because it tends to be a great stock for call option debit spreads, right? There's lots of time value in the
Oh,
option.
for sure. Yeah,
It,
it spreads in general. Yeah, it generally carries a lot of premium in its options.
yeah.
So it's often one that, is a really great target for that. Obviously, it's a higher price stock too. So, just trying to play it with the directional option purchase can get a little pricey just because, we're talking about even, down, way off its all-time highs, still talking about a $420 stock. So, the options can get, a little pricey for those pretty quick. But yeah, absolutely, Helene.
And VFLX said, "You're awesome." Thank
I will appreciate you throwing
for
a ticker in there. Thank you so much. And
Yeah, thank you for the ticker, and thank you for being live with us. And guys, if you're enjoying this, I hope you are. Go ahead and give us a like, give us a follow. We love getting to do these with you all. So we're so appreciative of you guys all being here. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and put a ticker into the comments. We're looking at your top picks right now. We're checking them out through our lens as technical traders, as trend followers, momentum traders. So go ahead and put some tickers in there. We want to make sure to get to your stocks.
absolutely. And Helene, I see that the chat and TikTok is clearly liking our profit surge dashboard indicators there, because I see that Cooper in the TikTok chat referred to you as the indicator final boss. So I wanted to point that out. I thought that was pretty funny.
I know there's quite a few that I have on there right now. I was like, gosh, I hope this isn't too many, but there's so many things that we like to look at. And
For
it's
sure.
helpful to analyze stocks, given those different ones. And
Yep,
I'll
without a
go with the
doubt.
best live ever. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
We love getting to be live here with you guys. Okay, it looks like we have some more takers in the chat. So first, I think Zoom has one. Did we already look at? We already looked at Meta, right,
We
Blane?
looked at Meta, but Scott put in there MDT. So this is one that should be pretty interesting today.
It's
Obviously, on a pretty rough tape day for healthcare. Again, those rising rates really proven to be a headwind for some of the more defensive sectors. I mean, we talked about this earlier in the show, talking about healthcare down substantially today. You can see Medtronic, very symbolic of that. You can see the stock's down 3% and has broken down below many months level of support here.
yeah,
Just a real nasty day for this stock. Just kind of a broader sell-off within healthcare today, unfortunately. So I would say, Helene, obviously we have a pretty fresh sell signal that's actually triggered here.
totally.
Just
Yeah.
looking at our trend lines, it actually triggered just a couple days ago. Obviously the price action is very bearish. It's way off of the recent highs. But what do you think about this one? Do you think this is overdone, or do you think it's an actual trend reversal going on here?
I think it's a trend reversal. Specifically, as you can see, it had a really, really strong support level in here, right around that 95, 96 level.
Yeah.
And the fact that it broke through that today, that is highly concerning to me. Additionally, leading into that breakdown, it started to trade below that middle Keltner channel, which is only something that really bearish stocks are doing. So to see that with the lower highs and lower lows, coupled with today's breakdown, that is telling me that it's very bearish in the short term. Also, MACD, it's on a sell signal, declining. Profit search momentum radar declining. Everything's kind of pointing down right now.
Exactly, without a doubt. Yeah, really, all the technicals we look at are definitely pointing to the downside. Very bearish trade look setup here. I will say this too. We could see a bit of an oversold bounce.
Yeah.
Obviously we have big jobs report tomorrow. If you see some relief in rates, you might get a bit of a relief rally in this because it has dropped. Below the lower Keltner channel here. it's been, pretty negative for a while. So certainly getting into that oversold territory, at least in the short term, but definitely looks like a bearish trend that's here forming pretty fresh trend line sell signal. So I would expect some more moves to the downside here, probably in the weeks to come.
Totally agree. Next up is from Gary. He's asking about Google.
Google, interesting. So this is one not
Wait,
as
wait,
constructive.
wait, 1 second.
Yeah.
If you guys are just joining the room, please make sure to go ahead and comment your stocks into the chat. We want to make sure to be able to check out your favorite tickers and analyze them through a trend following momentum trader technical analysis lens. So please go ahead, put them into the chat. And also, if you're enjoying this, give us a like, give us a follow, guys. We do these as much as we can. And, we also have a couple of trade alert newsletters where we give specific option trades to our members. The link is in the bio. So,
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, love to have you go ahead and check it out. Yeah, Helaine, sorry about that. I know sometimes it probably seems like you need a mute button for me, like that old sports talk show on ESPN around the horn. They could just mute the guests if they were talking too much. So, yeah, maybe we'll have to implement some new tech here in the future, so you can go ahead and mute me when you need to throw something out there.
I would never mute you, Blane.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, hopping into the next chart though for Google.
Yeah.
This one is not quite as constructive as some of the other mega cap tech names. Obviously,
Mm.
it's down about 1% on the day. I know this is a chart that you and I, started to get a little concerned about, several weeks ago. We had some positions on our trade alert services for our members for Google for the past couple months. And, we started to see that kind of breakdown trend degradation early February. We were getting a little nervous, and it's continued to prove us right.
Yeah, exactly. That movement on 2-5 really, like, that was a very concerning day. And that's when we're like, oh, it looks like it's breaking down. And then the next couple of days just continued to confirm that idea as it started to trade lower. And then we manage our trades accordingly. I know that I had been trading Google spreads for a number of months on the ride up, right? And I had to go ahead and get out of those positions, which happens, right? Stocks don't just go up forever. So yeah, got to manage your trades. But yeah, Google in the short term, it's looking very bearish. I'm seeing a series of lower highs and lower lows, consistently trading below that middle Keltner channel. Now, I will say that it hasn't made a new low after that 217 movement just yet, right? It's like a little bit down, but not fully breaking down below it. So I am going to watch that. If it breaks further below, let's call it like 296, then I would be very bearish on Google in the short term.
Yeah, it's definitely at a real, clear kind of pivot point crossroads at this support level right now. So if I totally agree. If it breaks down further from here, I think that's, clear confirmation that there's some more downside to go. I think that's probably pretty likely. All the momentum right now is pointing to the downside. The trend lines were all angling down. Haven't quite triggered that trend line sell signal yet, but it, just kind of seems inevitable at this point. It's probably going to happen in the next couple trading days. So yeah, I definitely, the way things are looking for this one, I think there's probably a little bit of further downside to go for this one.
I couldn't agree more, Blane. Okay, next up we had scrolling back, guys. Also, welcome in. If you're just joining in, go ahead in the comments, put a ticker that you want us to analyze. Okay, where was this one? I'm scrolling back. Sorry. Let's go with QPUX from VIP Trading. Welcome in. I know you've joined our lives before.
QUPX?
QPUX.
QPUX. Okay, sorry, I wasn't familiar with the ticker. So okay,
Me neither.
Helaine, is this the one that we actually looked at last week? I think
Did we?
this is a 2x leverage quantum ETF. So I think, didn't we look at this last week?
We did, and we were bearish on it. And it's
Very bearish on this, and that still remains the case.
yeah, that's funny. Yeah, definitely on a confirmed sell signal, trading lower highs, lower lows. Hasn't really broken through that recent set of lows from the last, let's call it month or so, but definitely not positive movement, especially as it jumped up and tested that middle Keltner channel on 226. Totally failed, just traded back down. I'm bearish on this.
Yeah, without a doubt. Totally agree. Still very bearish trend here. Clear trend line sell signal keeps failing at the middle channel.
Yeah.
It's right back down to that support level, but again, it's been testing that very frequently here in the past couple weeks, and to me, it looks like it's almost definitively going to be breaking down below it. So,
Exactly.
it's down like 16% just today. So, yeah, very very bearish setup.
Let's see. Next up is from Ego. It's BAT. And guys, we just got a bunch of more people in the room. So welcome in, guys. If you have any stocks that you want us to take a look at, we're looking at your picks right now. Go ahead and in the comments, type in a ticker that you want us to take a look at. Also, if you're enjoying this live, please give us a like, give us a follow. We try to do these as much as we can. We love getting to be live here with you all. We're so appreciative of your time. So go ahead. We're looking at your picks right now. Put them in the comments.
Absolutely. We just had a bunch of different tickers come in too, Helaine. So I know we had
Back.
BAT just come up. So
Blane, my chart's not coming out for BAT, unfortunately.
oh,
I think we
huh.
should go to the next one. I apologize, Ego.
Yeah, for some reason that one's not coming up. I'm really sorry about that there, Ego. I can't find that. It's not pulling up on my charts. I'm not familiar with that one either.
Have we
Um,
used Grok to trade yet? No, I have no idea what Grok is. I'm gonna have to look that up.
that's one of the Helaine, that's one of the main AI models out there.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
interesting.
one of the that one. I think that actually might be Elon's model, right? That
Oh,
Grok, I think, is Elon's model from XAI. I've heard good things about it. I haven't personally used it, but I've heard some people talk really positively about it. So, have you used it? Do you use it for any type of trading or trading analysis or anything? Go ahead and post in the chat. I'd be interested to hear what you have to say.
okay. And it's Adobe. And guys, in the room, we do have a free newsletter with weekly trade ideas. You can sign up in the profile, or you can DM us for more information to get you added on to that list. So go ahead and you can either DM us to join on that free newsletter, or you can go to the profile and join that way. There's a link. But next up was Adobe.
Yeah, so looking at Adobe here, obviously, this thing has had pretty tough sledding here for the past year. I mean, it is really, really significant drawdown here. It's still, clear trend line sell signal in place here. With that said, obviously, it was we mentioned not that long ago, software has been bouncing quite substantially here in the past couple days.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the whole ecosystem in software had gotten really, really deeply oversold. So it remains to be seen whether this is a bit of a dead cat bounce and relief rally that we're seeing here, or it is actual bottom getting put in place here for Adobe. Clearly constructive trading here in the past couple days, but still, longer term zooming out, very bearish price action. So still, I think a lot to prove one way or the other here. It's, would be a little hesitant to jump in for a bearish trade here at this point, given the price action in the past 2 weeks, because, clearly, getting a little bit more constructive here, but also really not fully willing to commit yet to a bullish trade to the upside.
Yeah, I definitely want to see a formation right with that EMA crossover, but I want to be bullish on Adobe. Okay, this is one of the stocks I want them to start trading well again, and I want to buy in at these lower levels. So in terms of an option trade, not ready for that. May I buy the stock? Maybe. I'll definitely look at it. Next up is going to be Gary. Put in their CCL. And Robert, I see your note there in the Zoom. I'm going to go ahead and reach out to you directly for questions about the Profit Surge dashboard. Okay, I'm having trouble finding them on the TradingView scanner. Yeah, okay. And yeah, I'll definitely touch base with you. The Profit Surge scanner is optimized for Thinkorswim, not TradingView, but I'll go ahead and get back to you there. And I will say that it is free in order to sign up for Thinkorswim. Not that we are recommending it or promoting it at all, but it is a great resource. It's a great place to trade. I've found through my own trading. So, and I'll let you know if we're going to do any trainings on the profit search dashboard using TradingView as well.
Perfect. Awesome, Helaine. Thanks for getting back to Robert. Yeah, we'll definitely get you help out there, Robert. But looking at the next ticker here for CCL, Carnival Cruise Lines here, this is one
Okay.
obviously has gotten a little thrown off kilter here because of the spike in energy prices here in the last couple of days, Helaine, and some of the
Oof.
travel disruptions given the uncertainty. But it had started to get a little constructive, coming out of those December lows there. Putting together a wider range of higher highs and higher lows. But this it just broke down below support level there, dating back to the lows of January there. It's near the lows of today, so that's trading at kind of near multi-month lows there. That's not super encouraging to me. I would say it's a little oversold at this point. But what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree that it is oversold. Looking at right RSI, it's at 17 for the 5 day, which would be an oversold indicator, right? And then
Right.
additionally looking at the momentum radar, it's deep in the red, but it's actually the red bars are getting smaller, which is telling me that it's actually like um going to be potentially moving up in the short term. So interesting there. Definitely bearish. Don't love that it broke through support from back in January. But in the short term, I think it could definitely bounce.
Yeah, this one's tough, Helene, because it really is. This one's highly prone to kind of whipsaw action trading because I think it's just completely trading off the energy markets right now, and we've
Mhm.
seen how those have been whipsawing so much here in the past couple of days. You can see that with the kind of wide range the stock's traded in. So, kind of tough, with that in the background and context here. Yeah, I will say, obviously, just looking at the MACD, just sticking to the charts. And the MACD did turn negative here in the past couple of days, and clearly a MACD sell signal. It's lost momentum here in the past couple of weeks, certainly. And then the price action of the past couple of days, really, since the events of this past weekend, certainly have just added to that. So if this one continues to confirm the downside, which I think it certainly could, we could be setting up for a good bearish setup here on this trade, but probably not at these kind of short-term oversold levels. I'd probably wait for it to get back above that lower Keltner channel, get that RSI above 30, something like that to show me that it's at least kind of stabilized in the short term, but still continuing that trend to the downside.
Yeah, couldn't agree more with you, Blane. Okay, we have time for two more trades, right? We've
Okay.
been live for almost an hour. So next up is SanDisk. Um,
Okay, interesting.
I don't know what your TikTok name is. I apologize. It's some symbols. And it looks like a smiley face. Um, uh, SNDK, right?
Yep, yeah, SNDK. And so this one, Helaine, obviously this was a red hot trade for the past couple months. And, we had been warning people on some of these memory plays, that while some of the charts still look constructive, that they had gone parabolic. Helaine, this is probably a really great time to point out on the profit surge dashboard, the percentage that it's been above the 50-day moving average, because I know this one was way, way above it. And
And
so, while this stock, in January, it started off, around what was it, about $280 per share, ended the month in January trading. What did it close at? Intraday on the final day of January, it topped out just about $680 per share. So went from about 280 to 680 in about a month's time. And really ever since then, it's been pretty much sideways. It had, a continued, shorter term series of higher highs and higher lows, but, really kind of lost that upside momentum factor, understandably, after the just crazy run higher that it had, gaining several 100% in a month.
mhm.
And so obviously now it, looks like it's beginning to test, support dating back to last month. But, what would you think about this trend here, Helene?
Yeah, I mean, overall, but everything that I'm seeing, it's short-term bearish. And what I'm noting here is that and we're looking at SanDisk right now, guys, if you're in the chat. What I'm noting here is on February 3rd, we can see that peak, right? It peaked out, traded down off of that high. It was at 7 720, over 720 at the high. And looking at our lower trend studies, we can see that the momentum radar peaked out that day and started to trade and trend lower from there. Just turned red the last couple of days, bearish sign. RSI additionally peaked out that day, of course, at 97, Blane.
Oh,
97. That's an insane RSI figure for any
they
stock.
only go up to 100.
Yeah, exactly. MACD peaked out on that day too, of course, and currently is red now, looking at the histogram. And then, as you had noted, the 50-day, which this lower study is telling us the percentage of the stock is trading above the 50-day moving average. If a stock is above 15% above the 50-day moving average, we start to say that it's overextended. And then anywhere above 20%, it is red hot. Well, Sandus got to just about 115% above the 50-day moving average. That is absolutely wild. Since then, that's just been trending lower. It's still 15% above the 50-day moving average. It's hard to believe. But
Wow.
I'm feeling short-term bearish on Sandisk right now. Everything that I'm analyzing is pointing to bearish movement.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm very cautious on this one right here. Just because of how exhausted that trend got and how overbought it got. Again, that's exactly why, in the past couple weeks, several weeks ago, we were urging a little bit of caution on these memory chip stock plays. There was, one that still looked a little bit more constructive than the others. That was Micron. But SanDisk obviously was the one that had run the most here in U.S. markets. And, we were, really, really saying that we were trying to tap the brakes on that one for exactly all these reasons. And you can see exactly why playing out here now. It's, clearly lost that momentum to the upside. It's starting to, test some support levels. Definitely looks short-term bearish. Totally agree with you, Helaine. You can see the MACD, momentum, clearly has been lost there. It's got a MACD sell signal, even though it's in the positives. It's still, just really lost all sense of upside momentum there. So, and Helaine, how far above it is this one trading above its 50-day right now still?
15%.
So it's still kind of in the cautionary area because, like you said, once we get to 15 or above, it's kind of a yellow caution sign. And you get above 20%, it's hey, whoa, whoa, like wait a second, this is flashing red lights, caution. This trend's gotten really overextended to the upside.
Yeah.
So it still hasn't even completely pulled back off of those levels. I mean, that you said what it topped out around 117 or something. That's just crazy.
Exactly. Okay, last one, Lane. Let's just take a moment because we're really out of time. We're over time right now.
Okay.
But I know Scott has been in that Zoom room for quite some time. I want to make sure we look at your trade, which is for Walmart. I had really liked what Walmart was doing leading into today's price action, but this is one of those defensive names that just couldn't hide today, right? Like, I don't know. I'm gonna need to see a couple days further of the price action to really get a better feel. But yeah, that's what I'm gonna say.
Yeah, with this one, a couple thoughts, Elaine, real quick. So heading into the earnings a couple weeks ago, I know you and I, given the run that it had, I mean, it was just a crazy run higher for Walmart. It almost gone kind of parabolic for a couple days there. So we were getting a little cautious on that. I know we actually took some positioning off in some of our alert services on this one, just trying to be, managing risk and be, cautious with that because it ran so hot into earnings. Really ever since the earnings report came out, it was a good report, but it just hasn't traded well ever since. It's not anywhere near those highs that it was before the report. It's, struggled, around the middle Keltner channel, obviously breaking down today as the broader defensive trades kind of breaking down with those higher rates. So definitely in the short term, series of lower lows and lower highs here coming off those recent all-time highs. MACD has definitely inflected very bearish here. Not saying that the trend has broken down completely. Obviously, we have a still longer term trend line buy intact here, but in the short term, the picture is definitely a lot more muddy. It's a little bit more murky here. I would be exercising some caution personally on this setup, waiting to try and see which way this one's going to break out, whether up or down.
Totally. Couldn't agree more, Blane. Okay, with that, guys, if you have enjoyed today's session, then you may or may not be interested in one of our options trading newsletters where we share actionable option trades with our members. So if you are interested, go ahead and you can either DM me. There's a link in my profile. If you're watching this later, there's a link in the comments because we are live right now. Blane just put a link in the Zoom room. So feel free, guys, if you're interested. It's only $1 for your first month. I mean, doesn't get better than that, right? What is $1 anymore? There's not even a dollar menu at McDonald's. So you definitely want to make sure to check that out if you're interested. Also, we hope you enjoyed this. Give us a like, give us a follow. We try to do this as much as we can with you all. So thank you all so much for your time today. I'm so appreciative. And Blane, anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, no, just wanted to just kind of underscore what you're saying. Thank you all so much for being here. Really appreciate you being here in the room live with us both on Zoom, YouTube, also on TikTok as well. So thank you all so much for that. Really appreciate it. But we'll be back here on Tuesday. It's going to be the next live event we're doing, next Trade of the Day live show. Obviously, some big things happening between now and then. Given everything going on, kind of a volatile situation in the markets. So going to be paying attention to a lot. We have to hop back into the markets here. But again, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Hope you have a great rest of your week. And we'll be seeing you back here next week on Tuesday.
Awesome. See you guys.
Take care, everybody.